The science has been ready for decades, so why don't men have more birth control options? At A Step Ahead Chattanooga, we believe that in the context of a relationship, decisions about contraceptive use and pregnancy intention should be shared. They shouldn't fall to one partner alone, but so often they do. Part of the reason is that women now have so many birth control options that the question for many has shifted from, should I use birth control, to which method is best for me? For men, the options are still limited to abstinence, condoms, and vasectomies. Scientifically, there is no reason for that gap. So, in this All Access Pass, we're digging into the real history behind it and the reasons to be hopeful that it's finally changing. First, let's talk about the side effect imbalance. Regulators, researchers, and to some extent, broader society have historically been far less willing to accept mood or libido side effects for male contraceptive methods. These are side effects that have long been tolerated in women's contraceptive methods. A clear example of this double standard is a clinical trial from the early 2000s that tested a hormonal injectable for men. It was 98% effective, but an outside panel called for a halt over side effects like mood changes and depression. Now, these are real concerns worth taking seriously, but they are also side effects women have lived with in hormonal birth control for decades. The contrast is why this trial became something of a flashpoint. It's evidence to many that regulators and researchers have been far less willing to accept these side effects in men than in women. We want better birth control for everyone, but side effects are part of every pharmaceutical intervention and should not be the reason for halting progress. We also have to talk about funding. To put it bluntly, male contraceptive technology isn't a product area that's lucrative for the pharmaceutical industry, so they don't make big investments in research and development. In the 1990s, large pharmaceutical companies broadly pulled back from reproductive health research, not specifically male contraception, but women's health research and development too. Their goal was to cut costs and de-risk. Reproductive health drugs and technologies are expensive and slow to develop. They require long clinical trials, and companies looking to trim R&D budgets saw this as an area to cut. Contraceptives are also given to healthy people who don't need them to survive. So the bar for acceptable side effects is much higher than, say, for a cancer drug. That makes contraceptives a comparatively risky bet. High liability exposure, low tolerance for anything going wrong, and if a side effect scandal hits, the reputational and legal fallout is severe. Pharma companies decided that the risk wasn't worth it relative to other therapeutic areas. As a result, this work has largely been carried out by nonprofits, academic labs, and small biotech, not the major drug companies with the deep pockets who can move it faster. We also have to talk about gender bias. We can't talk about this topic without acknowledging the role of cultural and gender bias. Pregnancy disproportionately affects the person carrying the pregnancy. So it makes sense that we prioritized contraceptive technology that gives women the power to decide if and when to get pregnant. Unfortunately, prioritizing that has created a cultural norm that birth control is one partner's responsibility rather than a shared one. This gets communicated indirectly through health messaging, relationship dynamics, and stigma around men using hormones. This impacts clinical trial recruitment and testing of new methods. Shifting that norm is challenging. So, even if and when new contraceptive methods are developed, it may take time for them to catch on and for the balance to shift. Here is the hopeful part of our message. Researchers say this is the most active the male contraceptive research and development pipeline has been in over 40 years. It's possible that within the next decade, men will have real choices like pills, gels, and long-acting reversible methods, the same kind of birth control options women have had for decades. There are a number of new methods currently in clinical trial. There's one hormonal method a gel, a transdermal gel that pairs progestin and testosterone to suppress sperm production. They have completed phase 2 of their clinical trials and hope to begin phase 3 in 2027. There are also several non-hormonal options in clinical trial. There are 2 different pills. YCT-529 is a pill that lowers sperm count by disrupting the retinoic acid signaling, and that sidesteps those hormonal mood and libido effects. There's also NLS-133, which is a pill that offers 24 hours of protection for more on-demand or daily use, and they're currently under trial measuring sperm levels after dosing. Both of those are in phase 2 clinical trials. There are also a couple of long-acting methods in development. The first is Plan A, which is a vasal gel polymer that's injected into the vas deferens that forms a hydrogel. It basically filters out the sperm. It's nearly 100% effective and may last up to 10 years. It's also fully reversible on demand. They're hoping to complete clinical studies and submit for FDA approval by mid-2027. Similar to Plan A is another long-acting method in clinical trial called ATOM. It is also an injectable hydrogel that is sort of like a temporary reversible vasectomy, but it's only designed to last up to 2 years for those who maybe don't need a full 10 years of protection. They are also targeting FDA approval in 2027, 2028. Apart from the methods that are in clinical trial, there are additional methods that are in the research pipeline that will reach clinical trial soon. After decades of near misses and false starts, this is progress worth celebrating. But one thing I want to note is that methods existing and methods being accessible are 2 different things. If these new options launch at a high price point or they're not covered by insurance, the people already underserved by today's contraceptive landscape will be left out once again. Just with more options, they still can't reach. Getting the science right is only part of the job. Coverage and access have to follow deliberately, or the gap just moves instead of closing. That's part of what we can act on now through effective advocacy, and it's a future we can plan for. A Step Ahead Chattanooga already covers the cost of reversible contraception, and as new methods clear FDA approval, we'll keep looking for ways to make sure that access expands right along with the science for everyone, including men. By the way, did you know that we already mail condoms for free throughout our 18-county service region? You can visit our website, astepaheadchattanooga.org, to learn more.